Sri Aurobindo reveals to us, just as Swami Vivekananda has said, that yoga is a means of concentrated evolution. So in each age of mankind, there are some who spearhead the evolutionary movement. And once they break through a critical barrier, then the rest of humanity follows. That's how evolution takes place. Now, this is one side of the story, but the other side, which is equally interesting, but often not much spoken of, is that just as yoga helps in human evolution, equally as humanity evolves, yoga also evolves. So for each age of mankind, there is a yoga specific to that age, which of course continues because something of that sticks on to man. So Sri Aurobindo reveals very beautifully that when man is mostly conscious in the physical, he is not much conscious of his inner being, he is not much awakened in his thoughts, feelings, aspiration. It is for that kind of humanity and in that age of mankind that we have the Hatha Yoga, primarily aimed at pressing the body, squeezing it, releasing the divine energy which is concealed within matter. It's the most ancient yoga. Sri Aurobindo speaks about it as the yoga of the Lemurian kings, because in that age, man is not yet conscious of anything still higher, still deeper. But then as man evolves, he becomes aware that there is a mind, there is a life of thoughts. Not that the physical man is not aware of these things, but his thoughts and feelings are centered around the everyday physical life and existence, the physical framework of life. But as man evolves, he becomes conscious of something still other than the physical, and that is the mind, thoughts, feelings. He begins to live in these worlds, in these domains. And for that kind of humanity, which is primarily centered in the mind, we have the Raj Yoga, primarily focused on mental processes. But then mankind evolves further and becomes aware not just of a mind, but of something still deeper, something more intrinsic, something like a subjective self, within which there can be a seeking which is higher for something beyond. And for that kind of humanity, we have Adhyatmi Yoga, of which the classical example is the Gita. So when people speak about what physical things are to be done in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, what are the methods and practices, very often they forget that even in the Upanishads and the Gita, with which we swear, we don't have physical processes which are described, except very briefly Sri Krishna speaks of concentration in a certain, this very small little portion of the Gita. But primarily the processes that are described are intrinsic and psychological, because the starting point is different. The starting point is that man has become aware of his subjective self, and he's become aware that there is a need to go beyond. So it enters, he's already taken us through the Gita into Adhyatmi Yoga, where there is a launching pad is quite high. Very often, because when people speak about integral yoga, they feel integral means something for the body, something for the mind, something for something else. So it is asanas plus pranayam plus meditation. And of course, turning to mother is also something like a token added to it. And that becomes integral yoga. Sri Aurobindo clarifies that such a practice will lead to confusion and not a synthesis. Synthesis is to pick up the essence in every yoga and do away with the external processes, because man is capable of doing it. Earlier, one simple example is that now one has to switch on the light. There used to be a time when we had to switch on the light and then the light will come through whatever complicated process. But we have right here next to us the bathroom where you walk in and the lights come. You have done away with the switch. You don't need the switch. How does it happen? The process has been understood that basically a contact needs to be made between this and that. And whatever means, it's not always through the physical switch, through sound, through clap, through just picking up sensors, picking up the human body, and it can happen. So essentially the same thing applies in yoga, that we have processes, and if one is still at that stage and feels the necessity, one can use them. But equally the processes evolve. There is a very nice story that I heard about a guru and a sishya. So, sishya has learnt a mantra and is very excited about it, and he goes and tells people, say this mantra 3 times and you will get moksha. And he is very happy about it. So he comes back to the master and he says, you know what, I have spread the word. He said, what did you tell them? I said, you say this mantra 3 times and you will get liberation. And Guru says, all wrong. What do you mean? He said, see, you got the external, you missed the real thing. What is the real thing, master? The real thing is not about number of times. The real thing is, if you are in an inner state, even once calling God's name is enough. You don't need to call twice. You don't have to tell again and again. And if you are not in the right state, 1,000 times will not make a difference, because you are just, punching it mechanically. Of course, some difference would be there. But the essence is that in every yoga, there is the essential and there is the externals. And Sri Aurobindo gives us the essential, extracts out. And to that essential, he adds something which is new and beautiful and unique. So what are the essentials of this yoga? We have a preliminary preparation, and in many yogas, we have a preliminary preparation where we are given some yamas and niyamas, certain do's and don'ts, proscriptions and prescriptions. So people often ask, what are the things to be done and not done in this yoga? Can I eat, do I need to eat only organic vegetarian food? Can I do this yoga taking non-vegetarian food? What dress I have to wear? What code I have to follow? What time should I get up? Should I take a bath and then sit for meditation? Because, that's how mankind still lingers. And Sri Aurobindo would tell us none of these things is really necessary. They are peripherals. What is the auspicious moment to take God's name? We should put it that way, that the moment we take God's name, that moment becomes auspicious. It's, flipping the side. So, in this yoga, we will see very little of these things, hardly any. Even in the ashram, initially if you see the rules of the ashram, the mother would again and again say that, I am not in favor of rules. Because she knows herself, as simple as that. Only one who is not sure of oneself will say, do it according to this, do it according to that. But she knows she is infinite, she knows she is the Divine Mother. It doesn't matter. Turn to me, open to me, and I'll do the rest. That's why in those days, Sri Aurobindo gave one rule to follow. Not too many rules, one simple rule. And I think this rule, if one follows, one can, completely change one's life. One simple rule. And Nalnida calls it the golden rule. Actually, Sri Aurobindo in his letter speaks of it as the golden rule. One rule I can give it to you and for others. He writes in a letter, always behave as if the mother were looking at you, for indeed she is always present. So simple. And if we really keep it in mind, I am meeting people, I am speaking with them, I am, going to a mall, I am sitting and doing this exercise, I am eating food, but she's there. She is looking over me, watching over me. When I am sleeping, she is watching over us. When I am waking up, it is she who is bringing me out to, once again undertake the great journey. This rule itself can change. It can go a long way. In fact, if we really do it sincerely, it can lead us through the journey of yoga. Because what else is yoga? But the contact of the human with the divine. That's what yoga is about. So the processes are a means. They may help, they may not help. If we are too much about the processes, we miss the essential. But if we know the essential, then whatever way we make the contact, it doesn't matter. And this is a simple way. Still, when people insisted much later for the ashrams, he gave some rules, very simple rules, 4 rules to follow. No drinking and smoking. no drugs, no sexual intercourse, and she gave no politics. The most difficult part, incidentally, is no politics. Because politics has nothing to do with parties. People think, oh, I am not doing politics because, I am not subscribing to this party. Politics is inbuilt in human nature. Lust for power, greed, ambition, that is politics. Groupism is politics. I am above you. I must get into that prime slot. It's all politics. So she gave these 4 rules because, of course, ambition and sexual intercourse, we know, are dangerous to yogic life. They were not rules from a moral point of view because Sri Aurobindo and the mother were far beyond this. At the same time, they knew that it's not that one day we take it up and because we have read it, it's possible. There is a long process to it. But nevertheless, the sadhaka must know what are the things he needs to get rid of his nature today or tomorrow, swiftly, smoothly, or through a long process of time. But nevertheless, one has to get rid of these things for a simple reason, because one is pulled down from the higher consciousness. That's all. I mean, if one has not had the higher consciousness, it doesn't really matter. So these were not rules meant for somebody seeking a normal life, because one is at the same plane. A simple example that I often use is that people ask, is it good to give organ donation? It's regarded as a great act of compassion. Well, in ordinary life, it doesn't matter. One of the first organ donations is blood transfusion. It's an organ, you give it to somebody else and you receive blood from other. It doesn't matter in a normal, ordinary circumstance. But when we begin to pursue yoga, when there is a stamp of the higher consciousness even upon our organs, upon the body, then things change. So when Champak Lalji wanted to give his eyes, donate his eyes, and he thought it's a good cause and like a sadhu, and the mother, when he expressed to mother, I want to give my eyes, mother suddenly put her hand on his eyes and said, no, 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 they are my eyes. These eyes belong to me. You just can't give it to somebody. We don't know. There is a mingling of consciousness. So in this yoga, as we proceed further and further, automatically we become aware of things which pull down the consciousness and things which help the consciousness to grow. That is the simplest of ways, and the mother puts it very beautifully, to be conscious. Take, for example, a simple thing. Marriages in India are more sacred than perhaps anything else. And if you don't go to a marriage, you are regarded as somebody who is an outcast, and why you didn't go, as if you have committed a crime. Whether it will last for 1 day or 1 year or 10 years is not relevant. You must show up, and show up with a big packet. It's the size of the packet that will determine your love. I hope things are changing. But I often, now I don't go, but at one point of time I used to feel I am going to just carry 2 roses and give it. No, you can't do this. This is not done. You must take a lifafa. I said, okay, in the lifafa I'll put only prayers. I mean, just out of fun, to have some fun. You must have some fun in life. But people, it's so sacred. But from a yogic perspective, when we get into that kind of a space where people are all the time, the whole atmosphere is full of ostentatiousness, show, display, sham. We talk of falsehood and it's there, all around. It's not worth it. It's not going to help. Even things which may regard as religious, going to temples. Now, I know as a child when I would go to temples, and I would feel very strange that people are observing what dress somebody is wearing. The mother-in-laws are busy talking about their daughter-in-laws, and daughter-in-laws are never good for their mother-in-laws, and vice versa, because the mother-in-laws are never good. There has to be a villain in life. How else do you satisfy your, the wish to feel persecuted and victim mentality? So it was so strange. Now going to temple is not going to help there. It is going to degenerate the consciousness, mixing all kinds of influences. It's not healthy at all, because there are people, there are forces, there are beings which pull in different directions. We don't even realize. And that's why when mother was asked, is it okay to mix gurus? She said it's as dangerous as going to different doctors. Because they'll pull in different directions. One is enough. And if we are not sure that Divine Mother is capable enough, then yes, then we better, try some other remedy. But if we know, if we are sure that she is the Divine Mother and she is in herself infinite, then what is the need of, I have a very beautiful, Sri Aurobindo and the mother have spoken about it. So, a very beautiful example in Tulsidas, when he was asked to bow down before Krishna and do pranam. He is a greater God than Rama, because Krishna has 16 attributes and Rama had only 12. So Tulsidas said, see, I was very poor in mathematics right from beginning. I don't know 12 and 16 because I don't know to count other than 0 and 1. Yogis know only 2 counts, 0, 1, 100, that's all. In between is not relevant. Because, we talk about 12 attributes, but they themselves are infinite, incidentally. The mother herself says they change. So we should not limit it, because divine is Anant Guna. But Tulsidas says something very beautiful. He looks at Sri Krishna and says, they are asking me to bow to you because you are also divine. But I'm in a dilemma. And then he tells him, Kaha kahun chhabi aapki bhale birajo nath, tulsi mastak tab nave dhanush baan lo haath. You are sweet, wonderful. I am sure you are very charming. You are the most charming of all. Such a darling. Yes, Krishna, with your flute you look majestic. But I can admire all this, but I can't bow to you. If you want me to bow to you, please pick up a bow and an arrow. Take the Vanvasi form and I'll prostrate at your feet, because that's what is for me the epitome of divinity. People often ask, when they go to ashram, and there is often a misconception that people carry when they go, they have read books, Life Divine and high philosophy and transformation, and they are expecting, they'll go and see beaming yogis sitting in meditation, chanting something, and, all talking of supramental planes. And they go and see what is it, people are entering, opening their chappals and going to samadhi and doing like this, taking agarbatti and putting it there. Oh, this is another cult, all rituals. Well, there are no rituals in this yoga. But there is a significance in doing pranam this way. When Sri Aurobindo was asked that, one can surrender to the divine inside. So, why is it said that surrender to the Guru is the surrender of surrenders? This is the question. The divine is inside, the Guru is inside. So, why does one need to surrender to the Guru outwardly? And Sri Aurobindo confirmed this. He said, yes, it is considered as the surrender of surrenders, because with the Guru, you surrender even externally, even your outer being, which one cannot do when you surrender inside. But when it's the Guru, what does one do? When one bows to the mother and, touches her feet, this is one of the things that the mother said, 3 modes of surrender. One of them is prostrating before the Lord and opening oneself, each center, and offering to her. This is one of the modes she has said. Of course, we can do it ritually, and then it doesn't carry any sense, because the principle is missing. It's not like I'm lying down for half an hour and looking around how many people are seeing how long am I lying down. Then it is surrendered to the ego. But when one does it with the heart, when one bows, people ask, what is the significance of pranam? Now, here even our outer being is participating. That's what is the integral aspect of the yoga. It's not the Hatha yoga. Because in Hatha yoga, very often Hatha yogis are extremely egoistic. Sri Aurobindo confirms this. Take the history of Hatha yogis and you will see. Because Hatha yoga, you work upon the body, but not the mind, not the subjective self. So that whole area remains in darkness. There is tremendous ego. And very often unconsciously, one doesn't even realize it, because one has not even looked inside. But here, when one bows down to the mother, what is engaging in the yoga? The body. When one looks at the mother, what is engaging in the yoga? The eyes. When one hears her words, what is engaging in the yoga? But the ears. When one tastes the dining room food, what is engaging in the yoga? The taste buds. Every which way. What is engaging in the yoga when one has offered some lovely flowers and then the fragrance comes to one? Flowers which are offered to her. It is a yoga of the senses. So at every level, one engages in the yoga. So much so that I take it like this, and because in ancient scriptures it is said that when you go to a tirtha, there is a story of Draupadi that When you go to see the Lord, every step you take gives the results of an Aswamedh Yagna. Now, leaving aside the exaggerations, etc., we need not get into that. But the point is that feet are walking to meet the Lord. And what is happening now? The feet are engaged in yoga. That's why the mother has released yoga from all these trappings that you have to every day get up and do a set of exercises. All that you need to do is engage in the yoga with the body. So beautifully Sri Aurobindo says, the mother says, to work for the divine is to pray with the body. Just engaging. See, in dining room, I had one of my first experiences of work was in dining room. The second was in marbling section, and it was so beautiful. I didn't want to do medicine. I thought I am done with it free. I don't want to do this ignorant kind of medicine till, they pulled me back. Because that was giving such a joy so concretely in the body, it's very difficult to explain. And I often advise this when people ask, where should I work when I come to the ashram, I want to work somewhere, go to dining room. It's a very good, treatment for the ego. Though, even that becomes an ego. Recently somebody sent me a WhatsApp message that, in Gurudwaras, people do juta ki seva. I am aware because I have the background. I said yes, and then they come out and say very proudly that, look, I did jute ki seva. Human ego can creep through any door. But granted that, one must remain conscious and vigilant, it's a very good corrective to the human egoism. And Sri Krishna has shown the way in Rajasuya Yagya, how he, picks up the jhuta patal and, gives it to a washing. So all these are simple things with which we engage in yoga, and we miss that opportunity because we are looking for a special process at a given point of time in a certain way taught by X or Y or Z. No, that's not it. When mother was asked about Hatha Yoga, she says, from our experience we have found that no particular set of exercises can be regarded as exercises like Hatha Yoga. What is she saying? So she says, so disciple asks, then what is to be done? She says, very simple. You are climbing up and down the stairs, climb consciously. So it's very nice that in Famin you have on 3rd floor. So every day, by the time we reach here, if we are doing it consciously, we have done the Hatha Yoga. And then there is no limit to it. We don't have to worry what time do we do it. We don't have to carry even the mats, because the mat called the body is always with us. This is the original mat. And all that is needed is to do it consciously. When we are walking, to do it consciously with her name upon our lips. What is pranayam? People also want pranayam. And pranayam gives them a lot of energy booster. I do pranayam every day. People don't realize that doing certain kinds of pranayam aggressively can also lead to blood pressure. They are not aware of it. It's a simple fact, because you are taking a booster of energy, prana, which is not the best form of energy, into your system, and it's not very healthy because, it'll give a lot of energy. And those days people led a very active life. They did a lot of pranayam, but they also did a lot of walking and a lot of real physical stuff. But how to do pranayam in this yoga? Very simple. Sit for a while or walk for a while. Think of the mother with each breath. That's the original pranayam which gopis taught to Uddhav. When he came and said, all of you are mad in love with Krishna, you are crazy people, you don't know yoga, you have not read the Yoga Sutras. What is it, Uddhavji? Please tell us what we should do. He said, you sit, I will teach you pranayam. What are we to do? You have to master your breath. So the gopis tell him that we don't have any more our breath. It is given to the Lord. It's no more with us. What do we master? And he comes back chastened. So Mother and Sri Aurobindo has brought back the yoga to its pristine glory. That's what it is meant for. And the more we become aware of our subjective self, of an inner aspiration, the more, that's the take-home point of this yoga. That's why we will not find many rules and regulations, and yet the golden rule. Another very interesting thing, people often, they have, it's not just unconventional, but how beautifully they put it. Mother describes in one of her visions that, experiences, that She is seeing who are the people who are fit for the supramental life. And they are, somebody is there testing them, and some are accepted, some are rejected, and some have to go back and prepare. And then she says, when I got up, I was laughing uncontrollably. So the disciple asked, why, mother? And she says, many things that are regarded as very important from the spiritual point of view and moral point of view had no importance at all for the supramental life. Whereas there were other things which were of much greater importance. So I'm sure he must have been shell-shocked. So he didn't ask the question that time. Later on he asked, mother, what is it that, is not so important from the supramental life point of view? She said, particularly in India, certain ascetic ideas or a way of life that you must get up at this time and do it this way. She said it has no importance. Very often it only leads to rigidity of consciousness. What you eat, what you don't eat. And then she added, for example, and then she, in a very amused way, she says, sanctity of marriage to which so much importance is attached. We need such a wideness to even receive. We talk about receptivity. To receive the Niagara Falls, one cannot be small and weak. One has to be vast. Otherwise, it will be washed away. The man with the little lutia standing below Niagara will be washed away. Forget about receiving. The divine is infinite, beyond all measures, beyond all systems, beyond all conceptions. Somebody went to mother and asked her, I am ready to do whatever the divine wills. Except for one thing, I cannot kill anyone. But I am sure the divine will never ask me to do so. And mother simply asked him, how do you know that? And he didn't have an answer. How do you know that? It's not that the divine will ask us to kill or not ask us to kill. The point is, he is infinite, beyond all these things. And yet a drop of love is enough to tie him. The Sri Aurobindo's poem, God, where he reveals who is God. O thou who pervadest all the worlds below, yet sittest above. Master of all, who work and rule and know. Servant of love. Servant of love. We have the famous Vaishnava Tantra where the images of Krishna bowing down at Radha's feet, putting his head on her knees and saying, please forgive me. I was absent whole night. This night is not just the night the way, one understands it in a carnal way. That's a misunderstanding of the entire Leela. The night of the soul, when for some reason the Lord has not shown up. And he says, I am sorry, forgive me. But you know what? I was thinking of you all the time. You have to go through that night. But, I was still holding you. This is our Indian version of that story of God carrying the person when he sees two footprints. This is there in Indian thought in a very beautiful way. He says, I was whole night thinking of you. Radha, please forgive me. He goes one step further. But I know I was not here physically. So this is the inner state in which we have to awaken. So then the disciple asks, then what is important, mother? Because these are the things we thought are very important. So she says, wideness and plasticity. Wideness at every level. We just read a description in the beginning in Savitri of what kind of beings came to her. Even those divided between wonder and revolt, those who were hugging to her for their small human needs, craving a like response from the divine, that just as we are, you should behave like us. There were people going and praying to the mother, he is my enemy, please punish him. So that man began prospering more and more. So the disciple asked mothers, last few years I am praying. And what results I see, just the opposite. It's a very interesting story because it touches an ancient truth about yoga. He's prospering more and more. He's healthy. He's growing. Everything is happening good in his life. Have you heard my prayers? Yes, my child. Then mother. Well, you see what is happening is you are bringing him in contact with my consciousness. What do you expect will happen? In ancient yoga, there is even a yoga called Vairabhav. Kansa, why he is granted liberation? Because all the time he was thinking of Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. My enemy, Krishna. He is the one I must find, Krishna. He is the one I must kill, Krishna. So ultimately he left everybody because he was so paranoid that Krishna is bribing this fellow, Krishna will turn this man against me. Eventually he was surrounded by Krishna with, alas, with the enmity of Krishna. So Krishna says, okay, I will come and I'll liberate you. You want to meet me as an enemy? I'll come as a wrestler. So as we approach that wideness, because the divine accepts whatever faith in whatever way we approach him. So very often people talk about distinctions, between disciple and devotee and this and that. All mind-made things. What does it matter? I'm sure the divine doesn't have a category of, people. Who is this person? X. Okay, put him in disciple category. Y. Okay, devotee. Z. Okay, we'll keep him on hold in limbo. We'll decide, figure out. General category. We'll see where he fits in. For him, there is none else but himself. For him, we are not different and other. We fail to see it, that he is not a human being who is putting people in slots. For him, who are we? Mother was asked, Mother, what is the divine? I was saying so many definitions he has given. One of them was, she says, who is the divine? What is the divine? The divine is yourself in many disguises. We read that line, in SAVITRI. As if an aspect of their own self had put on a garb of divinity. That is how. Who is she? In one sense, we can say, in the truest sense, that she is within us our own utmost. So she comes to express it, becoming human, so that we can recover that. And whatever way we approach it becomes a path. We can approach her this way, we can approach that way, we can believe that we must do some vigorous exercises, then only she will be pleased. She'll say, all right. Somebody can say that I love you, Ma, and I trust that you love me. Okay, fine, come to me. Or like Duman Bhai, somebody may tell her, Mother, I am doing your work, you do my work, and mother would say, yes, that is perfect. You do my work, I'll do your work. So based upon our faith, that is why faith is one of the fundamental necessities. And because faith also expresses differently, it evolves, it starts with something very rudimentary and external, but eventually it becomes a vision in the soul. And even if the whole world contradicts the divine presence, yet if the eye of faith has opened, then it sees and finds the divine. Even in what appears as torture unbearable to mortal nerves, one says, well, my Lord loves me, therefore he is taking me this way. But it takes time. So all these qualities, they evolve. Wideness, the understanding evolves. It's a wideness which is not bereft of an right arrangement of things. There is also writ in it. Everything has its own place. Everything has its own time, because we are dealing with things in a time-space matrix. So things have their own place and their own time. And one place Mother says, and I think yesterday I was very happy that you touched upon, chronoti and putting things in its right place. She says, what is evil? Mother says, evil is things are not in their place. As simple as that. There was a time for something. When it is not in its place, even things which appear as holy can become evil, because they become anachronistic. We have gone past that stage. So that wideness at many levels, not just a flat wideness, but a wideness in which the whole creation coexists in a hierarchically arranged manner. And behind all of that we have the vision of the one. And second quality, when she was asked what else is needed, she said plasticity. Plasticity. So divine has his way, he has a wonderful sense of humor. And we have to be plastic to her touch. We are, plasticity we all know. We are plastic to everybody around our life. But we have to become plastic to her touch. That's what Meera says, that If today you want me to wear moti ki mala, a garland of pearls, I'll do it happily. But tomorrow if you want me to just put all my hairs unbraided, I would do it happily. If you want me to sleep on a wonderful bed, well cushioned, latest Dunlop, no, Dunlop must be old now, I don't know, water beds and many beds, I'll do it happily because there I will find your embrace. But if you want me to sleep on hard floor, I would find your embrace there also. So see, equanimity can be approached in so many ways. People often ask how to, practice equanimity. Well, I can tell you the Bhakta's way. Bhakta's way is to see everywhere the divine presence. It is he who is holding. Then where is the problem? If things are comfortable, well, maybe my body finds it comfortable, but there too we have to live with that sense that it is she who is holding me. And when things appear hard, she is still holding me. A very nice story which indicates about trust. So a husband and wife were, in a boat, and they were suddenly, there is storm, and they don't know what's going to happen. But, the wife appears unfazed. She is very quiet. So husband doesn't know what's happening. So he is getting agitated, so he pulls out his sword and puts it on her neck. He says, "What are you doing? Can't you pray? Can't you do something?" And then she laughs. He says, "I have a sword over your neck and you are still laughing?" He said, "Yes, of course, I know you love me. Why would you kill me? I know, I have the trust in you." And then she adds, "That is the trust I have in my Creator." Why would storm is an appearance? Behind the tsunami I see Kali with all her hairs, or Shiva matted. Sri Aurobindo describes Shiva matted forest head, mountains. And if we begin to live with that sense, then yoga becomes a way of life. Otherwise, it becomes a specialized process. And Sri Aurobindo says it in the very beginning of synthesis, specialized processes have their advantages, but they also have their great disadvantages, because then we become dependent on the processes. I had a Swamiji once traveling with me to to some conference, and the Swamiji tells me, he was becoming very uncomfortable because in the train it was 8:30, 9 o'clock, he was becoming very uncomfortable. So I asked him, "What's the problem?" He said, I have to do my japa. I said, "Then do it." He said, "No, I need to take a bath." I said, "Take it." "Where?" "Go to the bathroom, take a bath." It was second class compartment. No, I can't take it. There, olden times, India, somebody has to cook, and where the water is coming from, all those nuskhas and, totkas. So, taboos. So, he said, "I can't take a bath." And he's uncomfortable. I said, "Call God's name. What is the problem?" No. That's how my guru has taught me. I said, "Okay, fine. You be uncomfortable. I am going to take my Lord's name." He was not Mother's devotee, but he wanted to go for the conference to hear. So I felt like telling him that Mother has already given you a most important experience of life. Be plastic. Be wide. Don't be tied to this way or that way. And certainly not my way. But your way, your way, your way. That is plasticity. And the third thing she said is stillness, equanimity. We don't allow space for God to act. Even in the most terrible, disaster-seeming situations, if we can just remain immobile, and obviously it won't come unless we have practiced it all our life, then that disaster can be swept away. Last minute an intervention can come. Something can happen. But we have to learn to remain immobile. The Mother says it's only through a perfectly immobile consciousness that the supramental force can act. But if there is the slightest agitation, slightest disturbance, slightest, kind of fear or worry, it doesn't work. Classic example was when the ashram was attacked. And ashram has been attacked number of times. And in India, it's well known that ashramas have been attacked from ancient times. Because wherever there is yagna, there the asuras come to destroy it. So the ashram was attacked physically, with stones and all. I'm sure many persons know, some may not know. And at the end of it, naturally, nothing happens. So at the end of it, the mother says, I wish everybody could remain absolutely in a state of perfect trust and immobility. But people were getting agitated. So I had to wait, I had to ask them to calm down. And Kali was here. And she was keen to destroy everything, but she would have taken some of my children also, because he was saying that with these children you want to build new creation. I had to make her quiet. And then she describes there was only one man, one person who had perfect quietude right down to the cells of the body. There was not even a trace of fear. Guess who? Pranabda. Pranab Bhattacharya, Pranab Dada. He said even in the cells he didn't have the slightest trace of fear that what may happen. Stones are flying. Should I do this? Should I do that? And yet he organized the defense of the ashram, but without a slightest trace of fear. He said that is the state in which we must arise. Immobility. So in life we have so many situations to practice it. That's how the yoga goes through life, through all the processes, through all the events and circumstances and situations. But when we have to ascend from one stage to another, then there are certain tests. That's what we started on the first day, that these are tests by three kinds of forces. Forces of universal nature, which are fine as long as we have not tried to go beyond. But the moment we want to go beyond them, they start telling us, no, this is not done. You are being unfaithful to us. And you have to say, yes, I know, but what to do? Now I have to be faithful to her. So they will not allow us. They will give all kinds of excuses, reasons. See, when Buddha walks out of the house, people still say, he did something wrong. He left his wife. Yes, true. But Buddha was being faithful to his aspiration. He was moved by the suffering of humanity. And therefore Buddha's going to the forest is as much an act in the light of the Gita as Arjuna's picking up the weapons. Sri Aurobindo clarifies that. Because that's his aspiration. He is moved by that seeking and he must be faithful and sincere to his seeking. And just as we should be faithful and sincere to our own seeking. So these are the forces, universal nature. Then second is adverse and hostile forces. They come and obstruct in various ways. They throw doubts, fears, all kinds of things. And we have to face them. We will see these 12 qualities Mother describes under the examiners. So when hostile forces, she says humility, vigilance, sincerity, it helps us. Because how do they come? Hostile forces, they try to throw, they try to attack us. If you feel I am someone great, but when you are humble, I am nothing. It is she who is everything. Who am I? But a leaf blown by her breath, a child in her hands. Ganesha himself, when he is out, he can be attacked. But imagine Ganesha in the Divine Mother's lap. Which Asura or Rakshasa from any world will dare to touch him? Because she is there. So humility is a safeguard. Vigilance. Vigilance is to, not only there is a negative vigilance to be careful about things which are entering into us, but a positive vigilance to immediately pick up this moment of progress and make the progress. Somebody praises and something within is saying, so nice, my greatness. That time you should give a rap. Tap full. When Udarda came to America, and he was that shining look and handsome person with all the things that charming gurus have, which draws many people because of their charm. So when people said, he has become a guru. So when he comes back, Mother asked him first question, Udar, I believe you became a guru when you went to America. In America, it's so easy to become a guru. So he says, no mother, no never. She said, very good. Otherwise I would have given a hammer on your head and blown it. Humility. It's important. What is oneself but her breath? So, then the third level of test is by spiritual and divine forces. This yoga, as we have been knowing, it's a long process. One has to navigate through many things. After all, it's a transformation of nature, not achieving this goal or that goal. One is not allowed to stop anywhere. There is a constant progression. There is a very beautiful message the mother gave. Do not look left, do not look right. Go straight forward to the goal. So one constantly moves in that way. There is no time to say respite because I had this beautiful experience or even a realization. We see that in Sri Aurobindo's own life. So these forces will come and say, no, we'll give you something quick shot. Spiritual and divine forces. Sometimes there is a masquerade and one is lured, attracted by the apparent ways. And there one has to remember, if something I am to receive, let her give it. Let it come from her. And if not, she knows better when to give, what is to be given, if at all. My joy is in giving myself to her. So this way the yoga proceeds through all the innumerable experience, countless experiences of everyday life. Mother puts it very beautifully that every day there are many innumerable windows that open to the infinite. It is just that we are closed. We don't notice it. So many ways the Creator speaks to us. So this is the basic thing. And one of the things which I strongly recommend before we read a little bit of Savitri, people often ask which book to read, Sri Aurobindo's book, Mother's book, etc., etc. If you really seriously want to engage with yoga, one of the things which I really advise, which I have myself done apart from reading some of the books, is read Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's life. You'll be surprised. It has a purifying and invigorating effect. It has an inspiration value. You don't have to ask what is humility. Take gratitude, for example. Mother's life, you will read a story. There was a very uncouth person who was always given a special place. With, mother would always give him preference and he could go and meet her, on all pranams, darshan. And people used to wonder, he is not even seemingly a devotee, why does the mother indulge with him so much? And Champak Lalji once asked mother, he said, when I came here, I went onto the street and I asked this man, where does Sri Aurobindo stay? And he lifted his finger and pointed to me, the Lord's house. For this one gesture, and it's not just one life, she remembers through lives, story of Amrita. We know how close he was, and he is so much conscious and alive and active. And when he was, one of his lives, he was the priest. Among the people who were there when the mother, as Joan of Arc, as a vibhuti, her body was being burnt on the stake. And she wanted a cross. And he is the person who in that life, because nobody would give a cross because she is being burnt because she has apparently gone against and away from the church. And he quickly with a hay stick made a cross and threw into the fire. That gesture the divine notes. Nobody sees because he is the eternal witness and the divine's gratitude. Someone sent to her 1 paisa. Yesterday we were talking about offering. Mother gives the story of half an apple. A lady had eaten half an apple and Shiva comes disguised as an old man, asks for something. And she says, I have nothing but this half an apple. Like Shabri's story. But Shabri knew that he is the Lord. But this story is amazing. And Shiva was very happy because that half an apple was a complete self-giving. So someone sent to mother 1 paisa, which he had gathered through the journey, and he was hearing from disciples who were talking about mother. And this man says, I have never seen your mother, probably never I will see, but I have heard such lovely things. Can you go and give her this 1 paisa to her? Or 1 rupee to her. Of course, even paisa meant a lot in those days. So he said, fine. So he goes and gives 1 rupee, puts it in mother's hands. Mother goes into a trance. You know what she says? She says, the divine will find it difficult to pay back to him. Divine will find it difficult. When we read these stories, nobody has to tell us what is gratitude, how to inculcate it. We read it and it just goes inside. That's what I was saying, like Ramayana, like the Bhagavad. Savitri is like that, and we need not read anywhere else, just Savitri. And of course, there are wonderful books. 2 books which at least helped me a lot was 12 Years with Sri Aurobindo. Amazing book. What patience! We talk about patience. He's waiting for his first meal. 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, shifting to 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And the Lord is waiting like a veritable Shiva. And we have self-realized people. And Sri Aurobindo describes them in his poem. He said, I am egoless free. Then I asked, are you sure? Because he shouted, because his meal was not ready. He said, I am egoless free. Then he shouted because his meal was not ready. So I asked him, are you so very sure? He said, it's not me, but my belly god that is hungry. That is how we play tricks with the divine. But we don't know he is a greater trickster. So he knows all the tricks. So we can't play tricks with him. Sincerity. We read mother's life. Sometimes we don't even take a note. We easily go through that, yes, 1920 next year, next to next year. We'll have the centenary of the mother's final arrival to India. 20 to 73, 53 years. Now imagine someone coming from France, living in Tokyo, a most beautiful place, coming from France with that elitist culture. There is no doubt about it that France, in terms of its culture, at that point of time was definitely a hub of cultural renaissance in the world. Speaking of equality, fraternity, and when she would have come here, staying at night in a room which was riddled with white ants and rats and whatnot, and yet she didn't feel like going back. What is this? What an inspiration. She had her son here. She had her own life here. She had so many things. Who could cut the moorings like this so beautifully? And then look at bhakti and humility. When she is asked to talk about her life, this is the ideal, perfect humility. Imagine in the situation of the mother, prime ministers are coming and bowing to her. Normally if somebody asks, just tell us about your life. Oh, the other day Nehru had come and he asked me, how am I doing? President comes and, Ari, tell me about your life. And, we will talk big things. And what mother says? It's worth reading. The reminiscences will be short. I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. I lived in India to do Sri Aurobindo's work. And after he has left his body, I continue to be here to do his work, which is of, that has to be read in original, of enlightening mankind and awakening that love and serving truth. That's all. Reminiscences. Mother, we want your life. Imagine somebody coming and interviewing her. But to disciples, she would disclose many things because it's an inspiration, God's own example. But this was officially, when it was asked, she said this much. But to disciples, many beautiful things he has disclosed, and that's all, because she has to inspire us, show us the way, God's own example. Sri Aurobindo, coming, leaving the freedom struggle and sitting here in Pondicherry. And those days, big people, they come and ask him, so sir, what are you doing these days? Sri Aurobindo remains quiet for a while and says, well, nothing. This is humility. These are examples of what... So when we read these things from their lives, nobody needs to tell us. We just, because we love them, or more importantly, we are able to love them because she loves us. Sri Aurobindo, his life unique, Rishabh Chand's book, another book, because these 2 books, Adventure of Consciousness, these 3 books are directly have been inspired by the mother. Sri Aurobindo's life unique. Mother had asked Rishabh Chandji to write his life before Pondicherry, and she said, because nobody can write after Pondicherry. Read that book. It's amazing. After reading it, you feel we keep complaining about our this problem, that problem. People who want to know what is positive attitude and how to develop it, just read Sri Aurobindo's Tales of Prison Life. Yes. Tales of Prison Life, and you will see. So this is the one of the ways. Just read Mother and Sri Aurobindo, read their lives, and I know it is infinite, but time is finite. So we have a very nice little phrase in I'll just read few lines to close. In Hindi we have a very nice phrase, Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. There is no limit to the glory of the Lord. And the more we read, the more we come close to them, because remember in the mother's symbol, we will read it. They are the 12 powers of the mother necessary for the manifestation. They are not qualities which we can develop in a mental way. And when we love her, all of it comes naturally. They are her gifts to us. So we'll just close with few lines. In fact, we can just finish that little portion, page 365. In vain she stooped to equal them with her heights. Too pure that air was for small souls to breathe, these comrade selves to raise to her own wide breaths. Her heart desired and filled with her own power, that a diviner force might enter life, a breath of Godhead great in human time. Although she leaned down to their littleness, covering their lives with her strong, passionate hands, and knew by sympathy their needs and wants, and dived in the shallow wave depths of their lives, and met and shared their heartbeats of grief and joy. The divine becomes human, and bent to heal their sorrow and their pride, lavishing the might that was hers on her lone peak, to lift to it their aspirations cry. And though she drew their souls into her vast, and surrounded with the silence of her deeps, and held as the great mother holds her own, only her earthly surface bore their charge, and mixed its fire with their mortality. Her greater self-lived soul, unclaimed within. Thank you.